BC's coast is home to some of the world's only glass sponge reefs, which attract divers from around the world. But the rare attraction is facing a threat from commercial fishing activity. And one environmental group says new regulations proposed by the government to protect the reefs doesn't go far enough. Joining us now with more on this is Sabine Jessen, National Director of the Canadian Parks and Wilderness Society's Oceans Program, and is joining us from our newsroom today. Sabine, thanks for being with us.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
All right, so what do you have there to show us?
Well, I've brought in a glass sponge that comes from the coast here on BC. Actually comes from Glass Sponge Reefs a little closer to home than the ones we're talking about today. Come from reefs near Seashelt, and I'm going to just tilt it a little bit and you can kind of have a look inside. But we got this sponge as a way to kind of makes glass sponge reefs come to life for people, because so few people actually get to see them.
Describe to us what's happening with the glass sponge reefs right now.
Well, the government has released draft regulations for public comment for the glass sponge reefs that are up on the north coast. They cover about 1,000 square kilometers on the seafloor. They're the largest of the glass sponge reefs on our coast. And in fact, they grow to the height of an 8-story building. And our concern is that the regulations they propose for this marine protected area is still going to allow for some activities to occur in the around and above the reefs that could impact them.
So in what way would that activity impact them?
Well, activities that touch the seafloor around the sponge reefs could kick up sediment, and because glass sponges are filter feeders, the sediment could basically smother them and prevent them from feeding and breathing. So that's our first concern. And our second concern is that they're proposing to allow activities in the water column above the glass sponges. And we do know from DFO records, Fisheries and Oceans Canada fishing records, that some of these activities that are meant to occur just in the water column are in fact catching fish that are only found on the bottom. So our concern is that those activities, whether they will actually not impact the reefs.
How soon do you think you could see impacts from this? And I guess what would the long-term impact be?
Well, I mean, one of our concerns and one of the reasons why we're pushing back on these regulations is that scientists have estimated that 50% of those reefs on the north coast were destroyed prior to some fishing closures being put in place. So we just want to make sure that the remaining 50% are left intact. And, you know, the damage could occur quite quickly, and we do need to make sure that those, as I said, those last 50% of the glass sponge reefs up on the north coast are there forever.
Just tell us what's so important about these. I mean, what do they mean for the ecosystem?
Well, they play a number of roles in the ecosystem. One thing they do is they provide, because you can see all the hiding places inside a glass sponge, they provide habitat for many other species. We know, in fact, that juvenile rockfish, one German scientist calls them the kindergarten for juvenile rockfish, which are very long-lived fish species on our coast and are actually in danger. And they provide home for many other species, like prawns and things that we like to eat. And then the other thing they do is, because they feed on bacteria and they filter water, they filter immense amounts of seawater and draw out the bacteria and actually eat that bacteria.
So Sabine, ultimately, what would you like to see from the Department of Fisheries and Oceans?
We're looking for stronger regulations when they finalize them, ones that would preclude the kinds of activities both above and beside the sponges that could have an impact.
All right, Sabine Jessen joining us from our newsroom today. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you.